So a number of the newspapers have captured this comment on their front pages and actually in the newspaper. So the Daily Dispatch, and we have poster Benef Singh saying, "Stop beating war drums and invest in polling agents." And then there's also the story, "My do or die is different from Akufo-Addo's all die be die." That's former President John Mahama saying that. And then Benef Singh again is saying, "Mahama's warmongering do or die comment unnecessary." Okay, but we have in the studio with me Alassane Suhuyini, who's MP for Tamale North. Welcome.
Thank you
to the show. The last time you were on Zoom, and I recall we're having a conversation about Bongo.
Yes.
To open it. But yeah, that's we're done with that now.
I still have not had my supply though.
Why don't you go there yourself?
Well,
and then Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante has also joined us via Zoom. Hello, Doc. All right, you'd have
Hello, Israel.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good
morning to my good friend Suhuyini.
Thank you, Doc. Good morning.
Okay, maybe I'll start with you. What do you make of the comments from former President John Mahama, do or die? And he says that he's put it in context. He's not actually calling, it's not a call to arms. He's just saying that let's just ensure that we do everything at the polling station so we don't have to end up in court. What do you make of the comments and the condemnations that have come in?
Yeah, if you look at the comment, actually it's very unfortunate. Unfortunate in the sense that, politics is not a contest. Let me put it this way. Politics is just a contest of ideas. You go to the political playing field and you throw out ideas, your messages, and if they resonate with people, they give you their mandate. It is also a referendum of the work you have done previously. That is, if you've gotten opportunity to rule the country. So if you look at it from this perspective, then you realize that it's a very unfortunate comment. You can justify, put all manner of interpretation on it, but remember that you are communicating to the ordinary man on the street, all right? So the way you put out your message will elicit a type of response, either for positive or for negative. You may have a different intention when you talk to, people, but the way you communicate can create problems. But you see, Israel, my worry as a student of politics is that this idea is not new in Ghanaian politics. It's not. Anytime we go for elections, people come out with all manner of comments, intemperate language that is not fit for our society and all that, just to whip people in line and get votes and win power. This idea for me is not new from all die be die and the rest of it, like Ghana will burn, Ghana will turn into Liberia and all this. And we as a country must do soul searching that at what point did we go wrong? And the point is that there are a lot of things that we have not done right that has given birth to this. And one is that is the failure of our society to deal with these issues head on. What do I mean by this? Anytime we go for elections or such statements come out, we come out, one, to rationalize, two, at the end of the day, we glorify these people with votes and they get away with this. So you realize that we don't punish enough to deter these issues. What is more is that when we have such statements, we don't have people from within the political parties to condemn it. And it gets on, it gets on, it gets on, it gets on. So at the end of the day, yes, if you need political power, then you believe that, let me churn out something so that at the end of the day, Who knows? I can be successful, get votes, and all that. One problem, if you look at John Mahama's statement, one of the problems that has led to this is the shooting incident in some of the areas we saw in the last election. For me, that is a very worrying signal. Worrying in the sense that we've had a lot of problems since 1992 in our electoral politics, from violence to ballot snatching, to the use of macho to intimidate and harass ordinary voters and all that. And we have kept quiet to this. At the end of the day, because the political actors, they benefit from this. Whoever emerges victorious, these matters are swept under the carpet. So it gives some people the courage, the opportunity to create problems for us. So if you look at the last election, the shooting incident, for me, the danger is that we have introduced a dangerous variable into the electoral equation. From all the aberrations I've talked about with regards to elections of this country, we are now saying that, yes, in certain constituencies, people shoot and kill people and results are declared. These are things that send wrong signals to students of politics, seriously. Oh. And that, for me, is a warning. So any language, any action that really get us in this mood, I feel very, very uncomfortable. But that is why that is why my call for, some measures comes in handy. One, that we need a body that, in the first place, we need a period that we can call, a period of elections, where it will allow for campaign and all that, so that off-season, we do what we're supposed to do, and then we save this country of all manner of statements that will not benefit the society. Two, we need a body neutral of government that will define the standards or set the standards for political parties to follow, so that intemperate language, certain behavior, and all that will be checked, so that whoever engages in this will be named and shamed. Okay, it is the way to go.
Yeah, Dr. Kwame Asante,
if we reflect on this soberly.
Yeah, I'll come for us to look at the merits and the mechanics, how this will actually work, this body that you're calling for. But I want us to listen to the former president and hear exactly what he said, so that we can put it in proper context, and then we can also get a reaction from Alassane Antony. So he has, the former president has said what he said, and then he's insisted why and explained why he said what he said. He says he's standing by it, he's not retracting. So let's listen to him, and then we'll come to you.
Africa, your proverbs, your bube, and you can't say young country in the straight format. Also, you're the best and the back. In English, your idiomatic expression. Omo school in terms say idiomatic expressions as say. Do or die means a critical assignment you have, and you must do the needful or perish. And so you must do the needful. I say, make us say, and this is me and train and go Supreme Court to be. There was a year of polling station and the collation center. I was here, and so I don't retract. The next election for NDC is going to be a do or die affair.
All right. So, Dr. Kwame Asante, you heard him. Is it the die bit that came in, or isn't it a case where you're having his political opponents deciding that, okay, if he said this, for purposes of equalization, let's highlight it so that he would look bad as well. And that's why we're having this conversation in the first place.
Yeah, Israel. This is one of the tips, but there is one that I listen to that starts with, in Chi, any polling station, or there, do or die. You don't have that. If you have that, you can play it, and we all listen to that. Okay. So from that context, for me, yes.
We have that, and so if you want, that was the original comment that he made. It was
Yes,
after
yes.
he had made that, then he came back to explain.
No,
to
I'm
say
looking
that,
at the original. Let's look at the original.
So for you, it's original. That
yeah,
places
the original.
that places in proper context. Okay, so
Yes.
let's get the original. Let's hear the original, and then we can come back to continue the conversation. All right, so we're trying to get that. It probably may take a few seconds, and then we can bring that to you. And then I'll come to you. Alasan Sweeney is in the studio. He's eager to also have his take on it. And I'll come to you, Alasan.
Yeah.
So we'll hear that. So we're going to hear the tape, the original tape, and then Dr. Asante wants to
put it in context.
Okay, we can't get it immediately, but I want to come to you, Alasan Sweeney, so that you make the point. All right.
All right. Once again, thank you, Israel. Let me say good morning to the viewers, especially the very good people of the Tamale North constituency. And let me also acknowledge some of the points that Dr. Asante made. Yes, it's good that we think of the way forward. But in this country, I have said repeatedly that it seems to me that sometimes we in the public space tend to admit to the wrongfulness of a conduct or speech only when the NDC repeats a similar, not the same, a similar conduct or statement originally made by the NPP. That is when we tend to admit, because I recall, I have been in the media with you for a while, that even when the all die be die comment was made, some people did not even want to talk about it. I mean, it was unethical to even highlight it.
It was condemned by many.
By many, yes, by some, not many, but by some. By some. Especially those who condemned it were tagged. But the point that I'm making is that it seems to me that most of the time we find, those of us in the public space, find our voices, our strong voices of criticism of a conduct or speech, and see the wrongfulness of that conduct or speech only when the NDC repeats a similar one. But I am thankful to God that similar is not the same. And so it's important that we make the difference. Similar is not the same. And it's not about what you and I or what John Mahama is saying about do or die. It's about what the Englishman says about do or die.
Okay.
It's not about what you and I are saying about do or die.
We have the video now, yes. So let's listen.
I was just hoping you wouldn't interrupt me with the video.
Sorry
but it's
about
all right.
that. We have the video now. Let's listen.
Yes, maybe a basic na audition. Yes, yeah, the 2020 answer. Elections, no, it will be won or lost at the polling station.
I see.
And the polling station, they better do or die. Because all die be die. They better do or die. The right thing must be done.
All right, so Dr. Kwame Asante, you've heard it, and but I'll let Alasan make his point.
Yeah, so the point I was making is that we need to acknowledge that what is wrong is wrong. We don't have, and we should be bold enough to condemn it. We should not wait until a similar conduct is repeated by the NDC, then we can now get our confidence to lump them together and speak boldly. We should be able to distinguish also between what is similar but not the same. So, for example, I have said somewhere that former President Mahama is a thinker. He's a thinker. And that is why he was very careful in this tape when he said, I did not say all die be die. I said do or die. Can I finish? So, let us not interpret it the way we want to interpret it. The first thing we do is what were we taught in school about do or die, an idiomatic expression. What is the meaning of that in English language? And the dictionary defines it. Now, the dictionary definition of do or die, as the Englishman defines it, not what John Mahama wants to mean, or what you want, or what you think he wants to mean. What the Englishman defines it to mean is to persist, even if death is the result. Not to kill, not to persist to kill, but to persist, even if death is the result. So how is that a call to violence? You could say maybe it's a call to suicide, but not a call to kill, not to attack anybody, because it says to persist, even if death is the result. And former President Mahama, in that same tape, says that we will ensure that the right thing is done. We don't want to cheat the NPP, but we will insist that we are not also cheated.
Okay, so let's do the persistence bit.
Yes.
You painted a picture of, yes, it means persist.
Yes.
Even it means at the peril of your life. Okay, so you're insisting that maybe the Electoral Commission, the electoral officer has counted the results, the ballots and everything else, and they're saying, okay, this is the result. And you're insisting that, no, that is not the result. I want you to count maybe 100 times. And the electoral officer says, no, we can't count 100 times. They insist, and they're taking the ballot boxes away, and then you come in and say, no, I'm not going to allow you to move the ballot boxes, and then there comes a confrontation. Are you saying they should still persist?
Yes, they should still persist. Because you see, the framers of our constitution...
But that's not the law. The law says that if you have a problem at the polling station, you allow it to go to the collation center.
Israel, the framers of our constitution says that we must persist, even if at the peril of our life, to defend the 1992 constitution. True or false? Is that a call to violence?
But that's not the way.
You must persist in defense of the Constitution even at the peril of your life. Is that a call to violence?
No, but it means that you must follow laid down procedure.
Yes, but you must. The laid down procedure includes.
So are you equating...
Let me give you two examples. Practical examples of the last elections in Savulugu and Zabzugu. In Savulugu, almost at the end of voting in Kadia, a polling station in the constituency, an electoral officer with a background known to the people being NPP in the community, Ishmael Kwashi, who was not registered at that polling station, got up and tore the presidential ballot paper, voted for Nana Akufo-Addo, but unfortunately, at the time he was dropping into the box, the NDC agent noticed. Thanks be to God, he did not drop it in the presidential box, he dropped it in the parliamentary box. He raised the alarm, and the electoral officer, Ishmael Kwashi, said...
First of all, how does anybody know that he voted for Akufo-Addo?
So if you listen to the end of the story, you will know. Just listen to the end of the story. Be patient. So he raised the alarm, and then the electoral officer excuse was that he did not have time to go to where he registered to vote, so he just decided to cast his ballot here. One, that's a wrong thing. The polling agents insisted that the right thing must be done and that the ballot be opened, the ballot box be opened, so that that ballot he put in be removed. And glory be to God, because he made a mistake and dropped it in the parliamentary box, it was easy to determine the ballot that he dropped in. Because everyone else dropped presidential in presidential box and parliamentary in parliamentary box. Now, it turned into, confusion, obviously. The security came, they couldn't resolve it. They moved it to the police headquarters in Savulugu. The NDC agents insisted. They collated all the results from the other polling stations except that one. The MPP people were now in the lead without that box. And so they decided to call for the nullification of the results of that place and insisted that the electoral commissioner should nullify results from that place. They shouldn't even count, they shouldn't even open the boxes and count them. The NDC executives in the constituency, together with the regional executives, persisted and said that wasn't going to happen. It led 2 days of protest. I'm talking about 2 days of protest. The final one was at the police headquarters in the northern region, where the police commander, together with the electoral officer, agreed to open the boxes and sort the ballots out. They opened it and they found one presidential vote, the one that the electoral officer dropped in, which was voted MPP. They took it out because that was a foreign material and counted the remaining ballots in the box. It turned out that the NDC won that constituency by 99 votes as a result of that persistence. That is persisting to the life, at the peril of your life. If they had waited to fill letters and go, right now the NPP is in court, but the NDC MP is in parliament.
Okay.
I said two, if you permit me. The second one is Zabzugu, and it's interesting. Zabzugu, they did not notice the overvoting at the polling station, but they noticed the overvoting at the coalition center. And so they protested. It turned into violence. The security came and sacked everybody and took the ballot boxes into a room, a safe room, locked it up. The NDC agents also went to lock it with a padlock so that they could secure it. Even as we speak today, the ballot boxes in Zabzugu is still under watch by the national security and the NDC agents. They go there every day to check in. But guess what? They blinked. And so in the dark of the night, after they locked the ballot boxes, the district chief executive, together with the deputy regional minister, who was the candidate at the time, took the collation papers with the electoral commission officers to an unknown location in Tamale, where they did the collation alone. And I'm sure you saw those videos of the deputy northern regional minister being declared in the presence of security men, an unknown location in the dark of the night. They did their collation and declared him. He's sitting in parliament. The ballot boxes are still locked up in Zabzugu because they blinked. They did not persist. So to the peril of their life, they blinked, and we lost the Zabzugu seat. In parliament, if we had not gone into that chamber with a do-or-die attitude, Speaker Bagwin wouldn't be a speaker today. Speaker Bagwin wouldn't have been a speaker, and you saw what happened that night. And the attempts by Carlos Ahinkura to even run away with what the verdict of the day was. So that is what we must understand. We shouldn't interpret it to suit whatever agenda we seek against the former president. We must go first of all to the definition of the phrase he used. And the definition of that phrase is clear, that you must persist. The framers of our constitution enjoins us to persist. And if we do not see those who wrote the constitution, and we don't not see anything wrong with the call for us to defend the constitution with our life, as we don't describe it as a call to war. In fact, maybe something basic. You know, when you started this program, you promoted a very good, project. A very good project of people supporting to do
the classroom project.
The classroom project. Very good work. But it's basic. You said something that I even find more dangerous than all this discussion that we are having. The politicians may have failed you. That is very common on the lips of average Ghanaians who find do or die as a threat. But the politicians may have failed you. What replacement do you have for the politicians? The military?
Okay, but if I said the politicians may have failed you,
so
I'm not calling for
now
people
you are defending yourself. Let me interpret it.
I'm not.
Let me interpret it you are saying because once you begin to succeed. Why
are you even bringing me into this conversation?
Israel, once you succeed in convincing the people that the politicians have failed.
I'm not convincing them.
The West is dangerous.
I'm not convincing them. The people are out there. They say it all the time. And it's one complaint. As you indicated yourself, it's one complaint that people keep making all the time. But the politicians have failed.
And again, that raises another issue.
So they say the politicians have failed.
I perfectly understand you. I'm just making the point that there are certain things we rather ignore that are more dangerous to the future of our democracy than this, attempt to, define do or die in a way that it will suit whatever agenda. And look, you hear people like Dr. Asante say that, yes, people can misunderstand it. That means he doesn't misunderstand it because he knows the meaning. But the fear is that people out there may misunderstand.
Fortunately, we just have it. Let him speak for himself.
Can I finish on the point that I'm making? You see, because the comment is, yes, we understand do or die is an idiomatic expression. We understand it's a phrase. We understand it means persist till death. But people can misunderstand it. And my question is, if you understand it, Israel, because you are educated enough to know the meaning and to know what exactly it means, and you have a platform like this, why do you think or assume that the average man doesn't deserve that knowledge you know? Why don't you rather educate the average man that do or die should not be misunderstood? Do or die means what it means.
Why do we have to find ourselves in a situation where you have to educate people about do or die? Let me bring in Dr.
So why do we have to find ourselves in a situation where we want to assume that they don't understand?
Dr. Kwame Asante. So as you heard Alassane Sweeney say, he says, well, all the former president is saying is that it's asking the people to persist even at the peril of their lives. And he's equating it to what the Constitution calls us to do.
Yeah, it's right. There's no doubt about that, vigilance is the price of liberty. Well, but we do all these things within the framework of the law. For me, all that I'm saying is that, look, we can make statements, but let us be measured and tempered so that what is more important is our programs or policies that we throw out. You see, we can defend it to the level that we want to do, but the stark reality will dawn on us one day if we don't we are not careful and handling these things very, very well. Let us please just 1 second.
All right, so Dr. Kwame Asante has a bit of a technical challenge. I'm sure he would resolve it in a bit, and then he can join us. So he's trying to resolve. I suspect it has to do with your power going down.
Is right.
Yes.
Hello?
You have to plug in your charger, I suspect.
I am back. Yes, I had to do that. Forgive me.
That's okay.
Forgive me. But what I was saying is that, look, let us do the right things so that we get our electoral process always intact. I have mentioned that all these statements, all right, are born out of the fact that we had some shooting incidents and all that, and the way as a society we responded to it, all right. Since 1992, we've seen a lot of, activities that have gone against the electoral process. And the last election, we move it to another height where shooting and all that, people died. And it looks as if the state have forgotten about this. There's a dangerous variable that we have introduced into the political equation. And, it affects the political fortunes of this country. So for me, as a student of politics, I look at some of these things and look at them very, very carefully. Let us build institutions that we can be confident in that institution. You remember recently, NDC about electoral reforms, one of it which is also security, where we involve electoral commission in the security matters and by law. I added something to it that we even want to add the political parties to it because there is a Cambodian experience which is there for us to look at, where the security people, electoral commission, and the political parties sit at the table, discuss the security measures as to how they will protect the electoral process, and they review it from time to time. Why can't we look at some of these things? Because, look, my worry also is that any time we are going for elections, these problems keep coming and we sweep them under the carpet. Yes, when the elections are over, we don't think about them anymore. But I tell you, if we want to build a democracy that will stand up the test of time, these are things that we need to work against. Because one major problem with young democracies is the issue of reversal, where democracy reverses, where people believe that democracy is not paying or giving them the dividends that they want, then they want to resort to something that you and I don't want to know or hear. And for me, that is what the state must look at, all right? I have said that when you look at this statement and that of what all die be die and all that, and others, such as what Ghana will bend, Ghana will turn into Liberia, you and I have heard a lot of some of these things. Let us be measured and tempered, and then build a society that all of us will be proud in. But that is also to say that we need to build institutions that you and I will trust, institutions that, you know, they will stand the test of time, institutions that will operate using the law, so that whenever somebody crosses the line, that person can be handled the way he ought to be handled.
All right. Now, Mr. Sweeney, so you've heard what Dr. Kwame Asante is saying. Essentially, yes, some of these comments can be inflammatory. And so maybe we could avoid all of these. That's the point he's making. And if the former president has said that, if he would just retract and apologize, we'd all move on and would have the country in peace and not have to worry about all these explanations and trying to justify.
You know, Israel, at the risk of repeating myself, that would have been, you know, an easy conversation to have. But like I said earlier, I find it intriguing personally that, you know, we sometimes begin to get the boldness and the courage to have these conversations only when the NDC repeats similar things we knew in our hearts all along were wrong or were, you know, condemnable. I recall even all die be die statements, some stations didn't want to play the voice. They didn't even want the voice to be heard. I recall, I mean, for whatever reason, they thought it shouldn't be heard.
Probably they didn't think that it should be propagated any further.
Exactly. Well, perhaps that was a good justification. But like I said, today the NDC makes a similar, and I keep using the word similar and saying that they are not the same. NDC makes a similar comment. It is now okay and fine for us to bring the two together and have some, you know, tea party. Perhaps if our approach to all die be die, you know, was not the way it was, perhaps we would have better understood do or die as what it means. Here we are. We understand do or die is an English phrase. We understand that it means persist at the, I mean, even if it's at the peril of your life, to achieve, you know, an outcome that is desirable. It's not like to do anything bad. We understand. But our conversation is based on our fear that some people won't understand. Then what is the use of the knowledge we have in understanding when we can't convince people to understand? That this is not a call to violence. This is not a call to kill. This is a call, like we are enjoined by the framers of our Constitution, to defend the Constitution even at the peril of our life. Indeed, it is repeated in our national anthem that we must resist what is wrong with all our might, with all our will. And that is exactly what the former president says. And I've just given you clear examples of how that won us the Savulugu seat.
Right.
And how, in the course of blinking, it lost us the Savulugu seat. So, Techiman South is a known case. Everybody who has followed the case this far knows what happened in Techiman South. People persisting and indeed getting killed as a result of their persistence. Even as we shy away from condemnations of those who shot and killed those innocent people who only persisted and insisted that the right thing be done, we think that we should all become docile. Why? Is it as safe to say that some people have a plan to do wrong, so it is a threat to their plan when you call on people to insist on the right being done even at the peril of their life? Is a threat to their plan to do wrong.
All right, we'll have to move on at this point. But there'll be more on this conversation having to do with all die, be die, and do or die in State of Play. State of Play, it comes up today at 2:30. And we'll have Evans Mensah, we'll have Raymond Aqua, Winston Amwa. They'll be coming together to look at it in detail.